we were going to get our favorite writers, and then we started putting together a list of our favorite writers and our favorite pieces, and the list just grew and grew, and now we have 20 writers here tonight. So it's going to be sort of a journey through time. We tried to sort of put together a text of all the pieces so that they would kind of fit together and make sense, but then the writers rebelled against us and wouldn't listen to what we asked them to read. So it might not make sense, but consider it a sort of journey through time of N+1. Thank you again for coming. Some of our favorite writers are not here tonight. Rashad Peer is in India, Nikhil Saval is in San Francisco, Ella Batuman is in Turkey, but we have a special guest tonight who will be reading in her place. That'll happen pretty soon. So we will have Ella sort of here tonight. So let's get going. Issue 1 will be led off by Mark Greif, one of the editors of the magazine.
This is from Against Exercise from the first issue. Were in the penal colony to be written today, Kafka could only be speaking of an exercise machine. Instead of this sentence to be tattooed on its victims, the machine would inscribe lines of numbers. So many calories, so many miles, so many watts, so many laps. Thank you very much.
The next reader is Dushko Petrovic, a painter. Several years after we started N+1, a spin-off art magazine called Paper Monument was founded by Dushko and Roger White. Here's Dushko's piece from the first issue.
Over the years, images replaced paintings and objects replaced sculptures. But painting was quietly both an image and an object. Over the years, systems and projects replaced style. You see a series of ecological niches. One bird will eat brown grubs in distinction to one who eats black, but a common ancestor ate something better than grubs. If everyone is trying to make something unassailable and market precise, they'll end up crawling into some very small corners. Some of this work had been fine and interesting. It expresses the artists themselves, if nothing better than themselves. But an art world thick with underdeveloped and overpraised visions gives the most power to curators and critics, since they're the only ones left to present a complete picture. Using magazines and group shows, they gather the various minor characters together and give them their roles. This assembly satisfies many with a very good picture of the art world, but it somehow fails to deliver the world. Over the years, names came and went. An accepted term for our condition was post-minimalism. You were either post or neo. It's time for more capacious terms. Post-neo, the new post. Over the years, history has been preparing the ground for something new. After decades of debating whether painting was an illusionistic window or a formalist wall, we realized it was a door. Most walked out, but a few quietly slipped in. That's Keith.
Shortly after we started magazine, we started a website. Christian Lorenzen, one of our most prolific web writers, an iPad as a symbol of the fact that.
What will the hipsters be remembered for? The last few months I've raised this question in Brooklyn, on the sagging couches of its brownstones and over the din of the glowing jukeboxes in its dives. The most common answer is nothing. New York rock, so much retread. The hipsters championing of vintage clothing, sorry, you can't be remembered for remembering. The embrace of white trash chic, trucker hats, and so on. A curious strategy of class confusion, I rewrote this sentence today, and perhaps a pernicious one, though not authentically evil. The hippies had Charles Manson, one friend of mine said. We haven't even produced a decent serial killer.
The first issue was called negation. In the second issue, we tried to be more positive. We called it happiness. Marco Roth, one of the founding editors, will give a history of happiness.
This is the shorter version of my dissertation that I stopped writing when I helped start N+1. A history of happiness is a funny thing, since for a long time happiness was viewed as merely the absence of history. No one lived for happiness the way we do today. In an individual life, it would have been a lack of catastrophic events. As the goal of an era or civilization, it would have meant stasis, absolutely nothing happening. If you did hit the blank time jackpot of happiness, the best thing to do was drop dead. Then came modernity. The more optimistic savants of the era began writing happiness directly into history, into life. They made happiness the goal of civilization, and of the individual living in civilization. Ideas like the pursuit of happiness and the greatest happiness for the greatest number migrated from the academies and drawing rooms of 18th century thinkers to the Continental Congress and the National Assembly. While cheerful Bentham doodled plans for his perfect prison, gloomy Carlyle recognized utility and its pleasures as the idols of the age. The principle of happiness was going to provide the key to a Newtonian science of the human. Traders and treasurers were thrilled. Self-interest would put greed and morality together with a big, fat smile. And now we skip a part about the novel and theory as anti-happiness, and about 100 years. It looks today like the happiness doctors have won. Totalitarian states enforced happiness through love of force, worship of terror, submergence in the mass. Liberal democracy was more easygoing about it, and that proved wiser. Pills keep us cheerful, sex is healthy exercise, violent light entertainment passes the time. Aldous Huxley wrote a letter to George Orwell right after 1984 appeared, in which he praised the Big Brother vision, but had to say he thought his own prediction for the future would be a lot closer to the truth. Not a boot stomping on your face for all eternity, but a society in which preferring unhappiness, because you didn't want happiness by ersatz means, would be the totally unintelligible thing. We are told the terrorists hate our freedoms. But who is freer than those guys riding around Afghanistan in pickup trucks with Kalashnikovs? It's not our freedoms we're going to bring the peoples of the world. No, we're going to bring them our happiness.
Dan is the author of Muses, Madmen, and Prophets, Hearing Voices in the Borders of Sanity, published by Penguin in 2007.
Yeah. I think this kind of upsettingly confirms Marco's thesis about pills and happiness and all that. 10 years ago, I had just begun college at a school in eastern Massachusetts, and I was having a terrible time of it. I'd been dropped off by my parents in late August, and almost immediately I was hit with a wave of anxiety. I've always been unusually sensitive to change, and so initially I attributed the sensation to homesickness, academic pressure, lack of privacy. One of my roommates was an Indian immigrant with a seemingly endless supply of foul-smelling pickled beets, and I therefore assumed it would quickly subside. But it persisted, and the effects were crippling. I was constantly on the verge of tears. I could not concentrate in class. I had little appetite. I was missing out, I thought, on the sex and narcotics that freshman orientation offers to all of America's young students. Several weeks later, my worried parents, who had been fielding a number of tearful collect calls, came to visit, and we went for a stroll in downtown Boston to talk. It was there that I had what I remember to this day as one of the most crippling panic attacks of my life. It is possible that the surroundings were what sparked it, for we had just passed the city's gruesomely effective Holocaust Memorial. 6 glass smokestacks on which numbers representing all 6 million victims of the final solution are etched, and through which an ersatz smoke rises all day as a reminder of their immolation. Or it's possible that my mother sparked it, for the attack coincided with her informing me that I was suffering from the effects of generalized anxiety disorder. My mother is a psychotherapist. And this diagnosis, spoken out loud, scared the hell out of me. Proof as it seemed to be at the time that I was irretrievably, because clinically, insane. Whatever the cause, however, the moment marks the precise point in my life at which I first decided to take medication, and I've been on and off psychopharmaceuticals ever since. On.
So up to this point in N+1 history, we've basically been publishing our friends. They're the only people who are willing to write first, and our relatives. My sister wrote a piece in the first issue. Thank you, Masha. Then we reached out beyond our immediate confines, and we discovered our first great writer, who was not from our immediate circle, Elif Batuman. Elif Batuman wrote a great piece called Babel in California. She is in Turkey, but she will be played tonight